Want quality and free information on search engine optimization? Click on the link found in the description of this video. Click now.
And we are live.
Ooh.
Let's see. That's right. How's everybody doing today? Seems like we have a lot of people in the chat now. Cool. And welcome everyone to our webinar for nailing your SEO pitch and win more clients. And this is part of our webinar series for Wix partners. And I'm here joined by two SEO powerhouses, Morty Oberstein and Nick Leroy. My name is Joshua Alfonso. I'll be your host for today. And in this webinar, we're going to be covering the resources that you can use for SEO pitches, demonstrate and turn your SEO projects into ongoing revenue sources, and review client sites with incredible SEO built by partners. And today, like I mentioned, Morty Oberstein and Nick Leroy are going to be covering all of this information for you all today and making sure that you understand it by the end. And there's going to be time for questions as well. So make sure you type some stuff in the chat, stay in contact with us. And without further ado, I'm going to give it up to Morty and Nick Leroy. Welcome, guys. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having us.
How's it going, everybody?
Appreciate it.
Hi, Nick.
Hello, Morty. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Cool. And we have Morty, and we have Nick as well. So Morty is our head of Wix SEO branding, and Nick is our owner of Nick Leroy Consulting, his own company. And in this webinar, like I mentioned, we're going to be covering SEO resources, and we've met Morty already and Nick, the reality of SEO at Wix, how data speaks, Google speaks, the SEO industry and concurs, the Wix platform speaks, and how to pitch your SEO. And again, we're going to be leaving time at the end of this session for questions and answers for you all.
And oh boy, I think it's my turn. Okay. Yeah. So I want to talk about where things stand for Wix SEO, for Wix in terms of SEO, where we were, where we're at, and what it all means for you in terms of pitching to clients and their understanding of the reality of what Wix means for SEO. As Josh mentioned, my name is Morty Oberstein, the head of SEO branding at Wix. I'm also the host of our SEO podcast, Surps Up. New episode dropped today. I actually host the SEO Rant podcast. I do the Edge of the Web's news podcast. I'm a consultant over at SEMrush as well. I do a lot of podcasting. I like podcasts. So I'll just be straight up. Is Wix good for SEO? The answer is yes. There's supposed to be GIFs here, and they're not GIFing. So if the images look strange, that's why. There's a lot that goes into that question. There's a reality, and there's a past perception. And sometimes, as you'll see, even Google talks about this, that lasting, lingering past perception can at times come up, but let's discuss how it all came about and what that means. So when we talk about past perception, we're talking people saying things like, oh, you can't rank a Wix site, or Google can't crawl the pages on a Wix site, which subsequently means you can't rank the pages as well, or you can't do SEO on Wix, or Wix websites are too slow. We're going to debunk all of this, talk about where things are actually at from a variety of perspectives. But first, let's kind of talk about where did this come from? Where did this idea that you can't do SEO on Wix, how did that arise? I think it's an important point to understanding the context of what we're talking about. And it's a combination of things. It's really two things. One is the product itself. You know, back in the day, when I say back in the day, I'm talking 13, 14, 15 years ago, Wix was built on Flash, which it has not been for a very long time, and that was not good for SEO. We used to use hash-banged URLs, meaning the URLs were not your typical mysite.com/blog and your typical slug. It was a whole bunch of parameters, and it hasn't been like that for a long time. And again, sometimes those things kind of linger on, and what's kind of helped them linger on is, talking about SEO. I think Nick will concur with this. Talking about SEO is difficult because it's very nuanced, it's very detailed, and SEOs are very opinionated.
Absolutely.
I don't feel like I'm going out on a. Am I going out on a limb there saying that?
No, not at all. And as much as I hate to say it, I mean, there's kind of the ongoing joke that it depends, because it really does. There's 20 different ways to be able to get very similar results. So it's very rarely about right or wrong. It's about testing and making sure you understand what's right for your website and your goals.
So what's kind of happening when you talk about SEO to a broader audience, sometimes the SEOs were not happy about how we talked about SEO in the past, which have very much shifted and changed. And I'll show you how we shifted and changed that, and where we currently stand with that, because we are now one of the leaders in how SEO is discussed, and I'll get to that. But in the past, the way we may have spoken about SEO kind of made SEOs a little bit on edge, and that sort of perpetuated that bad reputation around the tool itself. And sometimes that perception still lingers, and it's very much not the case now. I think the core SEO community is very much aware of all the great things we've done for SEO, and I'm going to show you that. But sometimes there's at times that past perception still kind of pops up every once in a while, and it's just not true. So when you hear it's not good for SEO, it's undeniably false across the board. I can't think of any particular case, and Nick has actually worked. He was on our SEO advisory board, and as we'll go through the tools and the SEO capabilities that are there for you, Nick will weigh in and tell you exactly what this means for the SEO community, what it means for doing SEO. Because where we started at, I would say circa 2019 to where we are now, Nick, you were there for the journey. It's not the same place.
Not at all. I would say there's a lot of improvements that have been made. Wix team has been doing a great job.
And I'll go and show you how that has translated into the SEO community, taking a different stance on Wix. But first, let's talk about the data. If you want to talk about the one thing that shows you, can Wix sites rank? Can you do SEO on a Wix site? Well, let's just take a look at the data. So here's a Wix website that brings in almost 1 million users from search every month. And I'll actually tell you in this particular case, they're not doing SEO, I don't think, because they don't use any H1s. But they rank number 4 for things like the keyword solitaire. This ranks number 4 on Google because they have amazing content strategy. It goes to the power of content strategies and SEO. But whatever it is, they're bringing in almost 1 million people every single month from organic search. This website is bringing in over 1 million people from organic search every month. And again, it's a Wix website. There's nothing unique about it. It's the same infrastructure you're using for your clients. This website is using to bring in over 1 million people to Google from Google every single month. This is one of my favorite websites. It's the national governing body of ice skating in the UK. So they're, I guess, responsible for all the official rules about ice skating in the UK. I don't know if there are official rules about ice skating, but clearly there are. And they rank for everything ice skating. Ice skating near me, ice skating rinks, ice skating UK. They rank number 1 for all of it, and they bring in 53,000 people from Google every single month. On this website, brings in 180,000 people. And it's not just about the overall numbers of the domain, but what it's powerful is the data. It's clear examples show you that Wix websites can be extremely competitive for competitive keywords. So, for example, here we're looking at the keyword, how long does it take to lose 20 pounds? Which is a YMYL keyword, meaning your money, your life keyword. Meaning it's a keyword that the information that's on it or on the pages that are represented on the results page can influence and impact your physical health. Mm-hmm. And SEMrush says that over 6,000 people visit or use this keyword every single month on Google. It's a difficult keyword to rank. And this Wix website that I have highlighted in the red brackets there, it's ranking right there with healthline.com, with menshealth.com, with super authoritative websites. And a Wix website is ranking right next to it because Wix websites are good for SEO. Here's another keyword, Sunday's ice cream. It's a very top-level short-tail keyword. It brings in over 4,000 people just in the U.S. alone, 28,000 people globally. It's a difficult keyword to rank for. Wix website ranks number 1. I'll just show you another one. I literally have endless lists of this, but a very top-level generic keyword, wrestling belts. Okay, we're not talking about a long-tail keyword with all sorts of wrestling belts. It's a difficult keyword to rank for. It brings in over 3,000 people in the U.S. alone. Wix,
Marty,
right there.
We should be getting some tag team belts, I feel like, for you and me.
I used to be a giant wrestling fan when I was a kid, and it's spilling over into my adult life for some reason at this very moment.
You and me both. We could talk to Ross Hudgens, too. We should get him a belt and we can compare. We all have wrestling stories.
All of wrestling is a Wix website. So we are wrestling. Wix and wrestling are synonymous. And lastly, to the point that Wix websites are slow, they're not slow. We've done an amazing job, and I'll show you what Google said about it. Our core web vitals are industry leading. For example, here you're looking at US data on mobile. Over 60% of Wix websites, which is one of the leaders in the market, and it far out surpasses WordPress, Shopify, or Squarespace. Over 60% of Wix websites on US and mobile past Core Web Vitals. And, you know, Core Web Vitals is something where a lot of the work is on the foundational part of it, on the Wix side of it. But again, that's something also where the Wix user does have a clear impact on as well. Let's talk about Google, right? You know, is Wix good for SEO? The data says yes. What does Google say? So I'm going to quote a lot of John Mueller. John Mueller is Google's main search advocate, and John said literally what I said before. He goes, Wix is fine for SEO. A few years back, it was pretty bad in terms of SEO, but they've made fantastic progress and are a fine platform for businesses. The reputation for back then lingers on, but don't be swayed by it. And then John goes on to say, like, don't move websites off of Wix. And I want to just give you a little bit of context. When John says Wix is fine for SEO, John does not hand out compliments. John is like, oh yeah, they're fantastic, amazing. The fact that John's even talking about Wix being good for SEO is an anomaly. And I'll go into why I think that is uncharacteristically happening. That Google is uncharacteristically being very vocal about the work that we're doing. Here's John again retweeting about our Core Web Vital work. It's inspiring to see the improvements in user experience Core Web Vitals that the folks at Wix have managed for sites hosted on their platform. There's still a lot to do, but the upward shift is amazing. John again. Wix has been doing fantastic stuff for a number of years now. I'm impressed. They've been raising the bar not only for their services, but for the industry overall. Now, I'm just going to read between the lines here for a second. What John is doing, and the reason why John is being vocal, is that John is literally using Wix as an exemplar to other CMSs. Google doesn't want just Wix to be the leading CMS for SEO. They want all CMSs. They want the web to be good for SEO. They want the web to be... Google wants the web to be accessible to their bots so that crawling is more efficient, so they can spend less money on crawling and indexing. I'm not overstating that. I don't think that Google does not like wasting resources.
Absolutely. It's very expensive. And I think someone had mentioned in the comments too, there's the big conversation of, you know, crawled but not indexed. And that is just a reflection of, you know, Google refusing to just spend an unlimited amount of resources. So if you're not going to help them rank or discover your content, they're not going to give you the benefit of ranking.
Yeah, so what's basically happening is Google's using Wix and all the work that we're doing to sort of say, hey, other CMSs, you should get on board with this. When they're going, all the other CMSs notice this. I know because I talked to other people at other CMSs. They notice what Google's doing. And Google's basically using Wix as a way of showing the rest of the CMSs to get on board with better SEO practices. So this is where we're at with Google. The SEO industry, which, you know, back in the day was not very pro-Wix, has Crystal Carter, who's our head of SEO communications here, puts it, we are now the new cool kids on the block. So Colt Sliva, who's the tech of SEO over at Glassdoor, he's also one of the people responsible for the entire Web Almanac. Wrote, really blown away by the Velo API for Wix. Hey, Joshua, how are you? Definitely a lot going on. And actually, Colt wrote a whole piece on our Wix SEO Learning Hub about using Velo to build out pragmatic automated content, which is super cool. John Henshaw, who was the former SEO over at CBS and now is SEO over at Vimeo, who's very pro WordPress and had some uncouth things to say about Wix in the past in reference to how we handle structured data. To automatically and intelligently include relevant schema structured data, it's more evidence that Wix is very serious about being competitive in the site builder space regarding SEO. That's an entire 180 from where he was just 2-3 years ago. Nick Wilson, who's an enterprise SEO consultant. He's done work with eBay and Vodafone. There's a strong argument for using a web builder like Wix for static content site. WordPress became bloated and over-engineered even with themes. So there's been a trend where SEOs behind the scenes have always kind of been like, WordPress is kind of a hot mess. And now that there's a viable alternative, as I'll show you now, they're actively steering away from it. In reference to how we speak about SEO, which I mentioned before, how in the past we didn't always speak about SEO in the most nuanced way. So Samuel Lavoie, who's a big SEO consultant of Canada, amazing to watch Wix turn around from SEO pariah to SEO leader in the CMS space. And he's talking about how not just our SEO capabilities, but how we talk about SEO, how we present SEO information to the wider community. Eli Schwartz, who's the former head of SEO over at SurveyMonkey, his WordPress website it crashed. And he wrote, and this is why I wanted to switch my site to Wix. There goes my afternoon as I have to figure out why this happened. By the way, he wrote a book called Product-Led SEO, which I actually have sitting behind me. The website for that book is on Editor X, and I'll drop a bomb, I guess, but Eli is currently migrating his website over to Wix. Lily Ray, Nick will attest to you, Lily Ray is probably one of the top 5, 3, 2 SEOs on the planet. There's Nick and then there's Lily.
Naturally.
Naturally.
No, Lily is very well respected, especially when it comes to her EAT analysis.
Yes. So she just wrote, I recently moved the WordPress site to Wix. Woo, go Wix. And she actually moved multiple WordPress websites to Wix. Aaron Weike, who's one of the godfathers of local SEO from your neck of the woods, no, Nick?
Yep, I was say he's a Minnesota guy.
Yep. Spent this weekend redesigning my personal website. After a decade on WordPress, I used Wix. Decent experience, have a lot to figure out. And the details, 8 out of 10 rating from me. Taylor Berg, who's the head of organic growth at Talkspace. Wix is now a better CMS than Webflow. Good luck to anyone trying to change my mind. Also, I'm migrating my personal WordPress website to Wix. Hopefully this week. She did. It's a great website. And there's endless SEO saying, yeah, I just migrated my website from WordPress to Wix. Then there's the actual platform itself. Like, hey, here's what the data says. Here's what Google says. The SEO community is very much on board with Wix. Let's talk about the actual platform itself and the capabilities in the platform. And Nick, I'm going to pull you in a whole bunch of this because you helped us work on this stuff.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So these are just, again, I'm just pulling out some highlights. We have a full guide to Wix SEO on our Wix SEO Learning Hub, so check that out. I say the author is fantastic. I wrote it myself, but it goes through the entire process or all the tools, all the capabilities that we have. It's 85 pages. It's a lot. There's so much to dig into. This is just the highlights or some of the highlights. When you connect your web,
I absolutely love
this. This is amazing, right? When you connect your
beyond great. When we were playing with this, when the whole Wix board putting this together, I put my newsletter on Wix, SEOforlunch.net. Literally, as soon as I hit publish, it was indexed. It was amazing.
It's crazy. If you connect a website to Google Search Console through Wix, we have a partnership with Google, which, by the way, why would Google partner with us on this if they didn't think Wix is good for SEO? Where your website is, your homepage rather, is indexed in like 15 seconds. By the way, and I don't have any data to support this, but I've seen it on multiple occasions, and this is just how Google works. When Googlebot comes to your website and to the homepage to index it, to crawl and index it, they're not just looking at that one page, but there's all the other links that are there. They're looking at those, and often those also get indexed, if not immediately, a day or two later. So yes, it's officially just the homepage, but it does go beyond that unofficially. We have a Google Business partnership where you can set up your Google Business profile inside of Wix, manage reviews, make edits inside of Wix. It's not just Wix pulling in the API. It's, again, Google. It's an official partnership, which why would Google do that if they didn't think Wix was good for SEO? Also, we don't talk enough about this, but in the UK, you don't have to wait for the postcard. We have instant verification of your listing of the profile inside of Wix.
And that's just another huge benefit. I mean, as a lot of people may know, there are other third-party systems that allow you to do similar things, but it's an added fee. So this is included within your Wix website.
It's crazy. You have to wait 20 days for the postcard. That's 20 days where your profile's not on Google. Mm-hmm. We are the only CMS to have integrated Google's Search Console URL API inspection tool. So we have the site inspect. So all of the indexing statuses around your pages are right inside of it. You see what pages are indexed, not indexed, crawled but not indexed. In my opinion, Nick, I think getting indexed and crawling is going to change over time. Google's getting smarter and better and a little bit pickier. Mm-hmm. At least I've seen it been a little bit pickier recently.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've worked with clients before that millions and millions of pages, and Google is actively not indexing a lot of the content. And, we could talk to many different SEOs, and they probably all have different opinions. But I think it goes back to what you had said previous, Morty. Google is not dealing with infinite amount of resources. They don't want to just tack on more spend into their crawl budgets. So they're basically drawing a line in the sand saying your content's either worthy of being in our search engine or not. And many SEOs will look at this as indication of that. So if you see crawled but not indexed, that doesn't mean that you need to go ahead and change the content immediately. But if that doesn't change over time, that could be a signal that you're not meeting Google's thresholds.
Yep, and all of that information is pulled in right for you automatically. And contrary to how the API works in general, you don't have to submit the URLs to Google. We do that for you. You have all the information right there. Again, we're the only CMS that does this. We're also the only closed CMS where you have full URL customization for blog and product pages. So, for example, the subfolder level, you can change the name of the folder. So, for example, here, I changed my podcast, which was a blog, from being, the SEOrant.com/post to SEO podcast, which is the only closed CMS where you can do that. We also were the first closed CMS where you can edit the robot.txt file. We actually optimize it for you automatically, and any changes that are made. So if your client makes a change there by accident, you can just one button restore the default. I think we're the only CMS that does this. I think it has to be automatic redirects, which has saved I had the stats on this. It has saved so many broken links. So if you change the URL for a static page, a product page, an event page, online program page, we automatically implement a 301 redirect. So no more broken links. Of course, you can opt out. We have an easy opt-out button for you. But that is absolutely amazing. It saves you so much time also as an SEO. You don't have to do anything. We do it for you.
This was a big initiative on the SEO board. Just understanding, when Morty and team came to us and said, this is why we're seeing sites, lose some of their SEO rankings. It was not an intentional or even Google, giving a bad ranking or, decrease in their rankings. It was simply user error and people not understanding it. So this was a big opportunity to help people.
Yeah, and as you pass over a website to somebody and they make a change and all of a sudden they've not redirected and they come back, well, what did you do? I didn't do anything. You did it. Mm-hmm. But the client doesn't always see it that way. Like, you handing off this website, why are things not working? Well, now here's one less problem for you to have to deal with if a client ever changes the URL. We offer full-on structured data customization, so you get multiple markups to a page, whatever markups you want. Great. We also create auto-generated structured data for product pages, event pages, blogs, and it's all customizable, editable, and at the folder level, so you can make a change really quickly. I will say this is amazing. It's an amazing time saver. You don't have, for example, products. You don't have to create structured data if you don't want to. It's done automatically, which, by the way, meant that when Google Merchant Center said, hey, we'll automatically pull in any page that has product markup on it, every single Wix product page became eligible in Google's Merchant Center in a second, which is absolutely amazing. Or, for example, when Google changes, let's say, some of the requirements. Remember, I forgot which one it was. I think they were an event structured data markup. Google made a change in what the markup needed to contain for rich result eligibility. We already included it. So if you're working on a WordPress site, you had to go back and change all that structured data. If you're working on a Wix website, you literally had to do nothing. We automatically submit the sitemap to Google for you. We optimize the sitemap. We take out things like, hashbang, hashtag URLs, archive pages are not in the sitemap. We also submit image sitemaps for your important pages, and we optimize it for you. Again, if it has above 10,000 URLs, we automatically make a second sitemap, and it's done automatically for you. Oh, I'm sorry, went too far. The last thing I wanted to say, and I should have made a slide about this, is when you're talking to clients and you're dealing with clients, I think just overall, all of this, having seen what Google said, having seen what the data says, having seen what's in the product itself, there's a really unique selling point here. And that's, if a client's paying you $5,000, let's just say whatever it is, a month, and you'll say you're working on a WordPress site, some of that money, inevitably, a good chunk of that money, if not monthly, is going to go to maintenance. It's going to deal with when the website crashes, vulnerabilities, plugins. Look, Yoast SEO plugin just took down, I don't know how many number of thousands of sites in the relative recent past. Significant portions of client money, if they're paying you $5,000 a month, let's say $500 a month or whatever it is going to go to dealing with, we'll call it maintenance.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with a Wix website, and the client's paying you $5,000, all of that money, all $5,000 are going to growth. So that $500 that you were, spending on fixing plugins or setting this up or setting that up, because we do it for you, or you don't have to worry about the vulnerabilities. You can buy more ads, more social media. You can buy another blog post, more content, spend money on the optimization. All of that money goes to growth. And that's a tremendous value for your clients. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to hand it over to Nick.
Thank you, Morty. So yeah, without a doubt, like I said, I've been a part of the SEO board for, what was it, almost 2 years that we were working through a lot of various issues. Wix is definitely right up there, and there's no reason to not rely on Wix for your website. So with that, this is kind of the meat and the potatoes of what we want to talk today, pitching SEO. So real quick, why should you listen to me? Why does my opinion even matter on this? So as Morty had said, my name is Nick Leroy. I've been in the SEO space for 10 plus years. Within the last 3 years have gone out on my own. So I'm a solo freelance SEO consultant. You may or may not have heard of my SEO newsletter, the SEO for Lunch, that goes out each week. And by the way, Wix is a sponsor of it. So thank you, Wix. And then I also own a boutique SEO job board that you can see at SEOjobs.com. So let's jump right into this. How to pitch SEO. The biggest thing before we talk about anything else, let's understand why clients are coming to us asking for SEO. Nothing else matters but this. They are coming to us because they want to make more money through organic search. So let's answer that question. When we're pitching them our services, we need to discuss how we, through organic search, are going to help them make more money. So how do we do that? We cannot just jump on a call. We cannot send an email and just blanket state, this is our minimum price. This is how much SEO costs. We don't know anything about their business, their website, what their opportunities are. So we need to understand more about our client's business. So the first stage is really collecting information. How do these clients make their money? What are they currently doing with their SEO? Are they making money from organic listings? What does conversion look like? What is the average value of a sale or a lead that they get? All of these are super critical, and you'll see later on, I'll discuss a slide about back of the napkin math, and all of this is really important. So when I'm talking to my clients, before I even know if they're going to be a client, this is the first thing that I'm doing. I'm just trying to better understand their business, and you'll see why this becomes so important later on.
Nick, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, like I said, a lot of this is one of two ways. I like to just jump on a call first and foremost and talk to the individuals. Many of the times they're open to sharing, what type of traffic they're getting, to what, extreme, meaning like how many sessions they're getting. What they might or may not provide is how much money they're making. It's a little bit of a secret sauce, but there are things such as signing an NDA, which a lot of partners here will know about, which will allow them to reduce any risk associated with that. And at that point, when we talk about, average value orders, that's just how much are people spending on average when they are, on the site and making a purchase. If you're lead based, a lot of people, especially if they're doing paid ads, will know that we pay on average $100 per lead. And these are very interesting data points that we can leverage to further justify the fact that SEO is a good investment, as well as what you may pitch for your pricing. So the first thing that we do after getting some of this information, I want to talk about total addressable market. I think this is one of the areas that a lot of SEO providers get wrong. We go into our favorite tools like SEMrush, we find our keywords that we think are relevant, we add up all that search volume, and then at worst, we're saying that's your opportunity. At best, some people might think they're being a little bit more advanced, and they'll talk about click-through rates. Position 1 ranking is, let's just say 20%. So we do total volume times a percentage of 20%. Is worth X. This is, your opportunity for SEO. But if there's anything I want you guys to take away from this, let's not approach it this way. I think you are really underselling the potential opportunity of what SEO provides for our customers. So when I talk about total addressable market, what I'm talking about is doing research on their competitors. I won't use Wix as an example, but let's just say, we identify your client is in an e-commerce space that sells, shoes. So we want to better understand how much traffic does Nike get? How much does Adidas get? How much does Reebok get? Now, just understanding those two or three sites can give us a better understanding of what that entire market kind of commands for the topic of e-commerce and selling shoes. That allows us to better understand what the true opportunity is. And the alternative, like I said, comparing it to a subset of keywords that you may grab from a keyword tool and adding up and trying to do some back of the napkin math. Morty, curious from your perspective, when you've talked to people, I think total addressable market is something that the industry is starting to lean towards, but really is something that's fairly new. Curious if you have anything in addition to add here.
Ironically, is that I think maybe I don't know what time frame, maybe 6-8 months ago, I think SEMrush added total addressable market or a similar metric into their trends because it is such a big help. When you're looking at a client's website, you also want to understand the overall niche where they fit into, not just a particular site, but like how big is the market? What's the potential for their website? Who is their market? What does their market look like? It's not just, I've generally found that a lot of SEOs will kind of like do SEO, like as you mentioned, they'll do a lot of SEO research, but they're not doing a lot of client market research and really understanding what's the potential for the client and the market. And it's so multifaceted. Looking at one actually recently, like, oh, this client, well, like this website will never go for SEO, but why not? Mm-hmm. They're not pulling in a lot of search, right? They're getting a ton of direct traffic, like actual direct traffic. They have heavy branding. They have a huge market. They're not really addressing half of their market. They're a prime from a lot of the traditional data points. They wouldn't look like a prime candidate for SEO services. Right. But if you dig a little bit deeper, you can get a much more multifaceted view of like what they need and how SEO might be able to provide that for them.
And I really like that you brought that up. I think this also within total addressable market, it helps you better understand kind of where the search intent is from these users and customers and the direction that they're going in. A really good conversation that I had on LinkedIn, and this was based off of a job opportunity I had at SEOjobs.com, was Peloton. They are looking for a director of SEO. And the biggest issue here is this was a company that just was skyrocketing. They could do nothing wrong. They were making money hand and fist during COVID. And now that a lot of us are starting to venture out, we're going back to health clubs, Peloton's in a really weird financial space. I mean, some would even argue that they're going to be obsolete and not even in existence in the next couple of years. So when you are looking at that market, it's important to understand what's that direction of demand, because Peloton would be one of those brands a lot of us would be super excited to work with. We would put together a pitch and, just can't wait to day one start. But the reality is, if it's a market that's dying, SEO very likely is not going to solve that. So it's good to understand that when you start doing some of your backer and napkin math or building that narrative for the pitch that we'll talk about a little bit more detail.
That'd probably be a great case of bringing in a lot of traffic to the website and not doing a lot of converting.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing too. Remember, we went back at the very beginning, we talked about what is the ROI to your customer? We as SEOs talk about our job being, we're going to bring traffic to the site. Conversion is not necessarily something that we can own, but I can promise you, if they are not converting, it doesn't matter how much traffic you bring, they're not going to keep paying you. They're not paying you for traffic. They're paying you so that they can make money based off of the money they're investing in you. And that is just a hard fact that a lot of people don't think about. So now that we've done a TAM, or total addressable market, we understand in this situation, we're going to say this is a great opportunity. The market's flourishing. Competitors are crushing it. what about this particular client? What kind of opportunities does their website provide from an SEO perspective? I want to be very clear. We do not want to do SEO audits for free. We are not going to go do, multiple hours, thousands of dollars worth of work for free. What we are doing here is we're trying to show more a proof of concept. We're already starting to have conversation. They're interested in SEO. We are looking to better understand, can we provide them value? So I highly recommend kick off any of your favorite spidering tools, whether it be a Sitebulb or a Screaming Frog or anything, and identify what are 2, 3, 4, 5 opportunities. You don't even necessarily have to have the full fix, but how are we going to be able to convince these individuals that not only should they invest in SEO, but that we have the magical quick wins. Quick wins doesn't mean we're going to be making money and ranking overnight, but that we, within, maybe an hour's worth of time, understand that the market exists and there's opportunities to further optimize your site.
Yeah, this is such a big point for building trust and building confidence with the client. I mean, there's so many people selling SEO services. There's been so much snake oil in the industry overall. You coming in and having, at least the outline of a plan,
yep,
and the confidence that you can fix this, it goes a long way. And it doesn't have to be. There's different ways of approaching this. You can show a quick couple of errors that they have. You can show some content opportunities that they're not taking advantage of. You don't have to go crazy with it. Nick, what do you usually throw into your audits here?
Yeah, a lot of it is just looking for those quick wins. It might be that an entire section of a site doesn't have title tags. Or we talked about robots.txt files within Wix. The amount of times that people are blocking sections of their site inappropriately, or they are not blocking it. The amount of staging environments that I see indexed in Google is just beyond crazy. And these are opportunities to be able to show your value. And it's also an opportunity to show your expertise as well. But you're not giving away significant opportunities. The last thing you want to do is give them the entire cake. You want to give them one spoonful. Give them a little taste. But it's
a
being
free
able
sample
to
at Carvel. Like they give you the little ice cream on a little spoon.
Exactly. Yep. No, I think the other thing to be said here, and I might get a little bit of grief for this, is there is a lot to be said about telling clients that SEO is not the right investment for them. And going off of that TAM, that total addressable market, and the opportunity. I mean, for example, if we keep going with the shoe example, so we know Nike, we know Reebok, we know Amazon, they're going to be these big, massive websites. And if somebody just said, I'm building these shoes by hand in my garage, I really want to rank in Google for red shoes. It's our responsibility to tell them that SEO is not the solution for you. You might very well have a great product, but SEO is not where you should build the initial marketing for your site or your product. Continue to potentially work with paid ads or social media, or do a little bit of sweat equity into your own SEO. Because I will tell you, the amount of times I've told people that I don't think SEO is appropriate, and then they come back to me with their jaw dropping to the floor because they're saying, we literally have 3 proposals right here from, your competitors telling us they can do SEO. And those are the people that they may move forward with one of them, but if they don't, and then those companies get bigger in the future, they're going to come back to you because you didn't take the quick money. And now they're going to be in a position to invest a lot more money into SEO. So I've mentioned a couple times back of the napkin math. This, in my opinion, is the most critical point. I said in the very beginning, people don't want to invest in SEO unless they are making money in return. We also talked about collecting information, so average order value, conversion rates, the overall health of their website, as well as the industry as a whole. So now we start drawing up some math here. You know what? Morty can probably attest to this. I'm not a math whiz, but you know what? I can make a spreadsheet work pretty good for me. So let's walk through a situation. You want to charge $5,000 minimum for your SEO investment, but your client sells widgets that only cost $1. Let's say they're selling 500 of these a month. You need to help them every single month sell 5,000 incremental products simply to break even with their investment in you. Most of us, unless there are some severely critical handicapping SEO components that we can change overnight, like they're blocking their site from Google, it's very unlikely that we're going to be able to deliver on this. So this kind of goes back to what we talked about before. No, this does not seem like a good investment. You should not continue with your pitch for SEO. On the other end, imagine you have a client that sells beds. It's a high priced item, let's say $1,000 each, and you're still gonna go with a $5,000 SEO investment. You only need to sell 5 of them for them to break even. Maybe this company is already selling 1,000 of them, or 10,000 or 100,000 beds. That's less than like a 1% increase just to break even. So you can see very quickly how the math allows you to see that the investment is positive. Now, what this is short for, I know a lot of people don't like the idea of saying no. We're all here trying to make money ourselves. But really what I'm trying to do is put you in a situation where you can create a narrative to pitch to your clients a situation where they are almost crazy to not move forward with you. And that's what we want to talk about is, again, when they are paying us, how are we giving them a multiple back on that investment? One of the last tips that I'll give you, because we've already done this homework, a lot of people are getting excited about SEO. They're probably bought in, but people are apprehensive in recurring costs. So if we are talking about a retainer that's, say, $5,000 a month, and you're telling them we have these opportunities, in the back of your head, they may be going, well, how are we going to do this? What does this look like? So build out a small roadmap. And I'm not talking about anything super crazy. I'm talking about literally how would you envision this engagement working? So let's jump into an example. This would be probably pretty standard for most clients. Month 1, a technical SEO audit. As we had just discussed before, we're not spending a lot of time in kind of that initial audit. We're looking for a couple wins just to validate that there's opportunity. Month 1 is where, we look at everything. We remove the engine from the car and we try to understand exactly every single detail that we need to address for this website. At that point, you can continue to build a better roadmap that gets into more detail. However, for this example, again, we just talked about month 1, we're going to go into that detail. Month 2, we're going to prioritize a certain percentage of these technical priorities. Month 3, we know technical SEO is great, but we know that's, only half of the equation at best. We're going to start looking into editorial calendar and building resources. And we also know that we're going to continue to, work on these technical priorities as well. Month 4, continuing with keyword research, and we could even introduce something like content briefs. How are we being really intentional with the content that we're creating? Month 5, and you'll see with month 6, it's continuing to show them for this recurring investment, here is the plan. Here are the deliverables that you will see, and this is what you're getting for your money. Morty, curious from your perspective, I suspect even in Wix, when you guys are talking about all these SEO investments, we worked for 2 years together to put a lot of these technical changes in place. You guys are working off of roadmaps. And, there may be instances where people can knock out the technical fixes in a day, but there are some that it's just simply going to take a lot of time. So is this something that you utilize in-house when you guys are prioritizing Wix-related SEO items?
Absolutely. 1,000,000%. And the roadmaps always, they always adjust, but the general framework of them doesn't, right? What your goal is, what you're trying to do, and the overall steps you're going to have to take to get there. Sometimes the priority shifts, like in this case, right? You did a technical audit in month 1. Your priorities might now shift at that point, or you've created the editorial calendar, you've started to execute some of it, and it's just not working. It's not feasible, or it's not jiving. So you're going to have to adjust. No roadmap should ever be in, it's not the 10 Commandments, it shouldn't be in stone. But having that general plan kind of gives you where you need to be going, where you should be going. And also when it's sort of done, what's next? What's in version 2 of the roadmap? They should sort of set themselves up a little bit that way.
And clients love to see that you are prepared, because, I mean, let's be honest, as Morty had said, there's a lot of, what we're calling snake oil in the SEO space. People are looking for that signature. They want that payment. That's kind of as far as they're thinking. So when you can get a client to understand that you want to be a partner in their SEO journey and you're thinking further than just that signature, it builds a lot of trust, which allows you to reiterate on these roadmaps.
I would say almost 90% of client success has to do with the level of communication and trust that they have in you. As my experience has been, when you communicate, when you have a plan, when you have structure, when you have proper expectations, and the client's expectations are reasonable because you've set them up to be reasonable.
Yep.
That's almost like the vast majority of setting yourself up for success. The SEO work, you know the SEO work. You can do the SEO work. But getting the client to be bought in, getting the client to have the right expectations so that when things take longer or things do take time, because SEO is not, Rome wasn't built in a day, rankings don't happen in a day. When you set those expectations through things like this, you set yourself up for long-term success with the client.
Without a doubt. And the best part of roadmaps too is if your client comes back in month 2 and says, why aren't we ranking? Because a lot of them do that. You pull up the roadmap and say, because we've only started the race. I know it's frustrating that you're paying, but we've got to finish the whole race. So this is probably one of the best tips that I can give you. And again, it's a mistake that I had made a lot, and a lot of agency partners I've talked to have made this. And honestly, this is the one thing I want you guys to take away today. Give options. But more importantly, I want you to focus on changing the scope of your options. The pricing will change based off of those, but we want to always negotiate on the scope, not the price. Now, the first thing that I'll talk about is there's a psychological benefit to providing multiple options. For instance, here we're seeing option 1 is $2,000 a month. Option 3 is $5,000 a month. Inherently, budgets may be what they are and you might be limited. But if there is potential to get more, clients very rarely opt for what is perceived as the minimum investment. And they may or may not just have the budget for the larger one. So they tend to steer towards this medium option. So a lot of times what I like to do is I tend to work on a minimum retainer. So I'll put my minimum as option 1. I'll increase it by 20% as option 2, and maybe something crazy like 50%. Now, obviously, the goal behind this is that you can provide value for each one of these. So you can kind of see here in each one of these buckets or options, we explain what the difference is. 20 hours of consulting and execution hours, versus 50. You can explain that to your clients as, instead of your roadmap, which is assuming is option 1, we can compress a 6-month roadmap into 3 if we were to go by option 3. Now, finally, the last thing that I want to talk about, as we had previously discussed, is the idea of flexing on the scope. So often clients will say, I want option 3, but I have the budget for option 2. And a lot of people will be like, okay, I want or I need this business. I guess we're going to do the option 3 for the option 2 price. And I think what's really important is explaining to them that you're not fluctuating on the price of your services, but you're changing the scope. So you may very well go in and say, we could do the 50 consulting hours, but we're not doing a call, we're not doing a performance report, and it stays at, this type of price. That's probably still not the best example, but the idea is if you switch on the scope to match the pricing that they are looking for, that is a key takeaway that allows you to continue to be profitable versus expanding the scope and dropping your price, which inherently is going to be least profitable for you. Morty, I feel like this is an area where a lot of people get wrong. I'm curious your perspective and even your experience.
You get anxious, right? Because you want to land the deal, you want to bring in the money, but what never really happens is, a week or 2, 3 weeks into it, 2 months into it, you never really have that regret, which is never good long term, because then you're like, okay, why am I doing this now? I want to get out of this. I don't really want to provide this for them, and you end up maybe doing something shoddy. It's not a good long term. Whatever in the immediate, okay, you feel like okay, fine. But then long term, it becomes problematic and it becomes difficult to get out of it. So prevent the problem in the beginning. Don't provide, top level services for a bottom dollar price. It just doesn't make sense long term. It's not healthy. It's not healthy.
Without a doubt. And I think that also goes back to your option one. Like, make sure that is something you're comfortable with too. Because I think, as Morty is alluding to, you don't want to sell your services at this option one and miss out on opportunities for people that are willing to pay option 3. So you have to be okay with it. And the amount of clients that I've had that have started the equivalent of option 1 and then their next retainer jumps into option 3, is plenty. But you have to be okay. If you're not going to work hard or you can't provide value in option 1, they're never going to upgrade to, say, an option 2 or an option 3.
That's a really good point.
So again, we kicked off this conversation about who I am and why you should trust me. And I want to kind of go back into this and just talk about a couple case studies. Does Nick know his stuff or no? So like you guys, we're all grinding every single day. We're trying to find SEO wins. And I just wanted to share with you quickly 2 SEO wins of my own. So this one is one of the shining stars in the testimonials that I like to share with my clients or potential clients. I had someone reach out to me. They had told me that they have been actively working for 2 years to solve a particular technical problem on their site. They said they worked with multiple SEO agencies, they've worked with dev teams, and nothing mattered. Like, they just couldn't fix it. I did a little bit of the poking and prod. I didn't do an official technical audit, and I identified Google could not crawl the links based off of JavaScript. These links were not discovered, so there's a whole subset of pages that could not get indexed. With their technical in-house team, I worked with them to solve that in 2 months, and you can see this slide shows you almost 2 years later, and we have over doubled the traffic by one technical fix.
Wow.
So I love this testimonial because it just shows that SEO doesn't always have to be the 6-month investment to be able to provide value. This was even just project-based work. I didn't even have a retainer with them. But what they had said, what they had attempted to fix in 2 years, we collectively fixed in 2 months. And you can see from the chart the SEO value that we got. Example number 2. Oh shoot, the testimonial is not showing up. I think that's another one of those click on. But so an agency partner had hired me. They were a little bit nervous about a client migration of theirs. They had 7 individual websites and they were going to migrate into one website. No small amount of work. They said we really need to get another SEO with even more experience than us on board. So they hired me. After we launched the site, you'll see at the bottom left, you would expect it was very minimal, and we expect to see a gain. That means we're redirecting them all completely into the site correctly. But then you can see over the next 6 months, we continue to see additional growth. And that is just making sure that from a technical perspective, not only was the migration done correctly, but we have a strong foundation like Wix is able to provide that allows us to be able to continue to grow that SEO strategy on top of what was a major migration.
And sharing these with clients, by the way, is really important. That sort of social proof when you share your wins. I know it might seem like boasting, but when you're sharing, especially when it's data, it's hard to argue with numbers. And when you share that with a client, you have that on your website, it's definitely an instiller of confidence. And I love, by the way, I like the fact, Nick, that you don't have like those hockey stick graphs where it goes from like 0 to 100 in like 3 seconds, because to me, those are never believable.
Nope.
Sustained, gradual growth.
If you look at this example, we literally went from 0 to about 4,000 sessions per day.
Yep.
I mean, that's a lot in aggregate. But again, we're not talking, I didn't make a million visits overnight. But I mean, you can do the math. What's 4,000 visits times 30 days? I mean, it's a lot. 100,000 visits? I don't know any clients that are going to say no to that.
Yeah.
So that's everything that I have. I'll pass it back on to Joshua. I don't know if we're jumping into Q&A.
Yeah, we're going to be jumping back into Q&A. And I just also wanted to say, Nick, after this, and same for you, Morty, I definitely trust you guys with the information that you're giving us today. And what I also liked is that not only are you guys showing us how to pitch SEO to different clients, you're also like telling us how to make sense of it. When's the appropriate time to do it? And I think that's also a really important point that you guys pushed on today. So thank you for giving us the information. And we're going to get on to some questions as well. We do have a few, and we'd like to know, your insights, Nick and Morty.
Great.
And the first question is, how do we rank? What checklist should we use to improve ranking?
Let's see. You want to jump into it, Morty, or how do you want to go?
There's no checklist, unfortunately.
Exactly.
The way I'll put it is there are certain foundational best practice things that you should be doing on a website, on a web page. Things like proper hierarchy, headers, all of those things are super important. And then there's the technical aspect of it, and then there's sort of like, okay, now that we have things set up, Google can crawl, index, discover, everything is fine, and those basic foundational practices are in place. Title tag is optimized. There's internal linking. Now you kind of want to start thinking about, how does Google see my site? Are we authoritative? Do we have great content? Are we targeting the right opportunities in search? Are we not targeting? Are we wasting our time? How do we sort of instill confidence in both users and search engines through the content they're finding via search? And I think that's a much more holistic content strategy at that point. That's how I sort of look at it. Don't pay for links. That's my last piece of advice, and I'll turn it over to Nick.
Yeah, so I think what you had said, I think what's most important here, and I don't want to twist kind of what the question is, but if you're looking to ever execute a checklist of SEO and then kind of deem it to be done or complete, you're approaching SEO in the wrong way. And one good example of a resource I would love for everyone to check out is, it's learningseo.io. Aleda Solis have put it together. And what it is it continues to show you all these resources that go into SEO best practices. And it helps you stay up to date with what is changing. Even in my own newsletter, the sole purpose of people signing up for it is because on a weekly basis, I can share 3 or 4 updates that come directly from Google and 3 or 4 or 5 resources such as Lily Ray, giving her analysis on an EAT or an algorithm update. So I just make sure that you're continuing to invest in learning into your SEO all day, every day.
That's really what it is. Like doing good SEO means, and we've talked about this in the past, Nick. We have conversations about this. That putting in that extra effort in to learn more, do more, understand more, and the more you understand, it's a never-ending process. I subscribe to your newsletter, and you should all subscribe to Nick's newsletter. I'm not saying that as like a plug for Nick, but keeping up on everything is hard, and having that content there for you every week is great. There's our Wix SEO Learning Hub at wix.com/SEO/learn. There's webinars, podcasts, and the last recommendation I'll make is for SEOroundtable.com, which is Barry Schwartz's website. Keeping up with the news and what's changing, even if they're small, it kind of gives you a sense of what's going on, what's happening, where things are going.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, guys. And our next question. Is there a way to add custom schema code to dynamic pages?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'll let you take this one, Marty.
No, I'm going to give it to Joshua since it's for product pages, but it depends what you mean by dynamic pages, right? Blog, product, event, those are all dynamic pages. You can do that right into the dashboard, and half the time or more than half the time, we're creating that markup for you automatically. And you can edit that markup. If you're talking about custom dynamic pages through the content manager, that I'm going to give over to Joshua because that's Velo.
Yeah. So yeah, you can definitely create a custom schema and code with your dynamic pages. And there's also a SEO API as well that you can use with Velo by Wix. So if you definitely want to learn some more information about that, you can check out the Velo API reference. And then you can also add that into addition to your dynamic pages that you have as well. So all the code that you have there. Sorry, Morty.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, all the code you have there is also that you can add on the dynamic pages right through the built-in IDE.
And there's it's in the Wix guide for SEO, the complete guide to Wix SEO. It's in there how to do that. It's also, I did a post on Search Engine Journal about how to deal with structured data on a Wix site, and I walked through that in there also. So if you want to see like how it's actually done, what it looks like, or some links there, you can check out those 2 articles.
Yeah, it's like a good marriage having SEO and JavaScript together. You know, you guys mentioned it earlier today in this talk as well. So we definitely should put some more material about that as well.
We should.
Yeah.
JavaScript is not going away.
No, not at all. And we have another one. Is there any guidance or best practice for page-specific SEO? What do you guys think about that?
I have a bone to pick with page-specific SEO.
Okay,
so hopefully this is like kind of maybe hot take worthy. Is it, it's not about Google doesn't rank sites, it ranks pages. Kind of. Never look at an algorithm update and like the entire site's down. Is that because of pages? Google's come out and said repeatedly that quality is a site level metric, meaning when they're assessing the quality of your website, it's not looking at a per page basis. It's the site overall. And they officially announced that with the helpful content update. Mm-hmm. So yes, certain things are page specific, but certain things are not.
I agree with what Morty's saying. I'm a big fan of the 80-20 model and making sure that we're optimizing in large releases and batches to be able to get 80% of our value from that. The one thing that I will say could be page specific that could potentially cause issue is duplication. So for instance, I mean, again, it's scale and individual, but there's a lot of times where we have the exact same content on multiple pages for various reasons. It could be paid landing pages. It could be that we're running a test. And all of those can have negative consequences. So the other thing to look for is just, your www versus non-www, HTTP, HTTPS. Those are all, they're all site-wide, but they are in specific pages as well.
Nice. And that looks like it's our last question for this webinar. Morty, Nick, thank you guys so much for sharing your insights on the reality of Wix SEO and how to pitch to your new clients. You guys are absolute powerhouses in this spectrum. And we want to thank you so much for joining us today. And we want to see you again.
Thanks so much, Joshua.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. And also, right before we go, I want to let everybody know about our Every Project series as well. So on November 8th, we have another webinar as well scheduled. And this webinar is for breaking down the barriers and challenging prospects with Wix Learn. So join us there. We'll be there on November 8th, and I believe we'll be at 11 a.m. as well. So we'll see you in the next part of the series. And thank you guys again so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Want quality and free information on search engine optimization? Click on the link found in the description of this video.